Jaya Maya Poshashi Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Radha Damodara Radhe ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shishi Konditai Mai Pashash Ki Jai Shishi Radha Damodara Ki Jai Shri Virabhadra Goswami Ki Jai. So reading from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. The concluding words of Srila Prabhupada's pastime. Over the last months of his life in this world, Srila Prabhupada taught how it is possible to meet death step by step in Krishna consciousness. In his last days, he told one of his sannyasis, "Don't think this isn't going to happen to you." Prabhupada came into this world on Krishna's request to teach us how to live a pure life of Krishna consciousness, and that includes how to finally pass away from this world to attain eternal life. Shishikoditai Mai Pashashiki Jai. Prabhupada underwent death in a way that was perfect and glorious, and at the same time in a way that which we could all follow. When we have to go, we can cling to the memory of how a great soul left his body, always thinking of Krishna, surrounding himself with the medicine of chanting Hare Krishna, always desiring to hear about Krishna, and practicing detachment from the misery of the material condition. This last lesson was one of the most wonderful and important instructions Srila Prabhupada gave us. He taught by his life, by his books, and at the end by his dying. Education is how to die, is meant especially for the human being. An animal dies and a human being also dies, but a human being is supposed to understand the process of going back to the spiritual world at the time of death. Remaining always fixed and undisturbed in Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada expertly taught the process. His passing away, therefore, was a perfect lesson and one that can be faithfully followed. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There's actually a conversation. Prabhupada's one of the disciples is saying, well, we also die, Prabhupada, because he's saying that we conquer over death. He says, but Prabhupada, we also die. So that's the difference. We don't die like animals. When the animal dies, it doesn't know what's going on. It's the last thing on its mind that it's going to die. So this is about Virabhadra Goswami. He was the son of Nityananda Prabhu and Vasudha Devi. He was an incarnation of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Virabhadra Goswami had numerous disciples, but there are 3 disciples who are celebrated as his sons: Gopijana Vallabha, Ramakrishna, and Ramachandra. Although Virabhadra Goswami was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and is transcendental to all Vedic injunctions, he strictly followed the Vedic rules. There was a big Muslim leader whose son became very ill. No matter what doctor tried to cure him, or what medicine or treatment they used, the boy was fading away. Eventually the father called for Virabhadra, having heard that he was a great Hindu saint, capable of performing miracles. Virabhadra agreed to cure the son if the governor gives him a certain stone from his garden wall. The boy was cured by Virabhadra, who then held a thunderous kirtan with his associates. In the middle of the kirtan, the stone fell out of the wall. It was so heavy that several men had to lift it up. When Virabhadra wanted it taken to a boat on a cart, when they put the stone in the boat and rowed to the middle of the river, Virabhadra asked for the stone to be put on the river, and the stone floated down the river, exactly to the spot where Virabhadra waited for it. Then the Murtikava was called and given the exact details and measurements of a most beautiful Krishna deity. The man cut the stone in 3 places and began his work. The first deity was perfect from his feet to his waist, so he was taken away and installed in the temple. The second deity was perfect from his waist to his head. He was installed in another temple. And eventually the third deity was completely perfect, and Virabhadra installed him himself. Who are the deities? Anyone know? First deity is Radharani Mohan. Second deity is Radha Govinda, and the third deity was Radha Gopinath. And they represent 3 different stages of practicing devotional service. Sanatana Goswami worshipped Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, Rupa Goswami, who worshipped Radha Gopinath. Okay. Shri Virabhadra Goswami Ki Jai. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto, and this section is entitled Hiranyakashipu Terrorizes the Universe, which includes South Lanarksha, if you were there at that time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is chapter 13, and it is text. Oh, sorry, it's not chapter 13, it's text 13. Chapter 4, and it's text. Is it 13? 13. Tam anga matam madunoru kandina. Tam anga matam madunoru gandina. Vivrita tam raksham ashesha dishnya pa vivrita tam raksham ashesha dishna pa. So you can do Govinda, the Govinda. Upasato payana panibir vina. Upasato payana panibir nibivina. Tribis tapo yoga balojasam padam. Tribis tapo yoga balojasam padam. Tam angamatam madunoru gandina. Vivreta tam raksham ashesha dishnapa. Upasato payana panibhya vina. Tribis tapo yoga balo jasam padam. So I've not quite got the tune. You know what it is, the meter? You know the meter? Tam angamatam madurn noru gandina. Vivrita tam raksham ashesha dishnapaha. Upasata sato payana panibhya vina. Tribhistapo yoga baloscha sampadam. Tamangamatam madunoro gandina. Vivrita tama raksham ashesha dishnapa. Upasato payana panibhya. Tribhistapo yoga baloja sampadam. Tamadurnoro gandina. Viritatam raksham ashesha disnapaha. Panaya Panipe Vina Travistapo Yoga Palocha Sampadam Tamangamatam Madhunuro Gandhina Vivritatam Raksham Shesha Dishnapa Upasato Payana Paniyapi Vina Travistapo Yoga Balocha Sampadam Amatam Madhunuro Gandhina Vivitatam Rakshama Sheshadishnapa Upasato Payana Panyabhina Trabistapo Yoga Baloja Sampadam. Ladies. Tam Him Hiranyakashipu Anga, oh dear king, Matam, intoxicated, Maduna, by wine, Urugandina, strong smelling, Vivita, rolling, Amra Aksham, having eyes like copper, Asheshadishnapaha, the principal man of all the planets, Upasata, worshipped, Upayana, full with paraphernalia, Panibi, by their own hands, Vina, without, Tribi, the three principal deities, Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Tapa, of austerity, Yoga, mystic power, Bala, bodily strength, Ojasam, and power of the senses, Padam, the abode. Translation. O dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong-smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. So responsibly pleased. O my dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong-smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, in yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. So in the Skanda Puran, there is this description, Upayanam Dadu Sarve Vina Devam Hiranyaka. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that everyone but the three principal demigods, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, engaged in his service. Madhvacharya says, Aditya Vasavo Rudras Tri Vida Hi Sura Yata. There are three kinds of demigods, the Adityas, Vasus, and the Rudras, beneath whom are the other demigods, like the Maruts and Sajas. Marutas Cheva Vivesha, Cha Sajas Cheva Cha Tadgata. Therefore all the demigods are called Tri Pishtapa, and the same word Tri applies to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyascha Paritanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we continue on in this chapter. It's referred that Hiranyakashipu was abominable. He had performed austerities, and because he'd performed austerities, Lord Brahma was very appreciative of Hiranyakashipu. But once Hiranyakashipu stopped performing austerities and just started getting drunk all the time, then he became abominable. But because he got to that position by his austerities, and everybody had to worship him and treat him with great respect, although he wasn't behaving in a way which was due respect. But he was behaving in that way because he was intimidating everyone to respect him. And Krishna could do the same thing if he wanted to. He could make us very afraid of him, and we want to serve him, but we do it because we're afraid. And then Krishna, he could behave in a way which wouldn't be so respectful, because Krishna can do anything he wants. He doesn't have to comply with any rules or regulations, but he chooses to follow rules and regulations. Just like we were reading this morning about Virabhadra Goswami, although he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, direct expansion from Lord Nityananda, still he followed all the rules and regulations very strictly, although he didn't have to. Hiranyakashipu, on the other hand, had performed all the rules and regulations, had got what he wanted, and now decided he didn't want to follow any of the rules and regulations anymore. So he was drunk, and he was doing all kinds of abominable things. Prabhupada generally uses the word abominable in connection with something else, illicit sex. He often refers to that as abominable. So as soon as I saw the word abominable, I was thinking, okay, so it wasn't just wine, it was everything, all the regular principles were being broken. So he's achieved the position, but now the whole situation is being abused. The demigods are being forced out of fear to have to show him respect. Everything is artificial, not based upon. They say you should command respect and not demand respect. So he was in the position where he wasn't due respect, but he was demanding it because he'd attained that position. And the only ones that could refuse to worship him were Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. So they were beyond his purview, his control. So the Skanda Puran is referred to, and when I was looking up the lifetime the other day of the amount of time he ruled Hiranyakashipu, then the Skanda Puran was also quoted there, 110 million years. Hiranyakashipu terrorized the universe. So that must have been a regular situation, that his eyes were rolling, copper red, and he was drunk on strong-smelling wines and liquors. So if you're doing that for 110 million years, you must build up quite a tolerance to alcohol after a while, so as to get really strong if you're going to get drunk on it. So it become very strong-smelling. But the nature of intoxication is it has to be intensified, because after a while you get used to it. So then it goes from one type of intoxication, which seems okay-ish, to another type of intoxication, which doesn't seem okay, to another type of intoxication where it's definitely not okay, but by that time it's too bad. They say that heroin is the velvet claw, because the claw, the cat's paw is very soft until you try to pull away, and then the claws go out, and then it's not so soft anymore. Then it's quite nasty, quite painful. So it seems nice, and then it goes nasty. Then you have to try and drag yourself away. So whatever enjoyment you've received, everything in the material world has its pound of flesh that you have to pay. So however much enjoyment you get, you don't get anything free. So after you've got that enjoyment, then you have to pay the pound of flesh. So that's how the material world works. And Hiranyakashipu, he has to give his pound of flesh in the form of intestines when Lord Nrsingadev finally catches up with him and decides, okay, enough's enough. But at the same time, it's a long time that he's terrorizing the universe, and the demigods are becoming more and more disturbed. So there's a few things going on there, because if the demigods were pure devotees, then Krishna would come immediately to protect them. But because they were Kanishta, Prakrita Bhaktas, they had material desires. So Krishna was just letting the material universe take its course and help them to realize, actually, this is not such a good place to be. Even though I am a demigod, it's still not that much fun. Maybe I should become a pure devotee and just go back home, back to Godhead, where I belong. So Krishna is achieving a lot of things. At the same time, he's testing the devotee. Will the devotee be patient and steadfast? Utsahandishchatariyat. He has to be confident and enthusiastic over an extended period of time. And then when Krishna decides, just like when it's right, the fruit will ripen, and you can't force the fruit to ripen. Well, they do try to force the fruit to ripen, actually. That's why you get these amazingly strange fruits now that they start off rock hard, and then when you wait for them to go ripe, by the time they're ripe, they've gone rotten inside, because they were picked before they were ripe, and then they're force riped, so they look good on the shelf, and there's no nutritional value practically. No prana, no life. They're eating lifeless food. They have to eat 3 times the amount now in the West to get the same nutrition that they did in the 1950s, because the soil is so compromised. There's no goodness anymore in anything you're eating. So you have to bulk out. You have to eat more of it to try and feel nourished, and then you bulk out. Obesity is now the biggest. They were showing, actually, somebody had taken a film in the 1940s in America, and they show everybody, and they're saying in the little video, notice there's no fat people. And there's every one of them is lean, And then later on, with progress, the progress is that everyone becomes really, really fat. And eventually they did this film where the people they became so bad that they couldn't grow anything. So they all had to go up into the spaceship and wait till the Earth had detoxified, and then they could come back down. But they were in space so long that when they finally came down, they couldn't stand up anyone, because all their muscles had gone so weak, they'd gone really fat. And but anyway, that's what happens, unfortunately. If you go off track and you start following the principles and you lose your austerity, then you become abominable. And so that's what's happened here. So Hiranyakashipu is teaching a lot of things, teaching the demigods, get out the material world. He's teaching us, at the very best, we're probably going to try and become a prime minister or a manager at Starbucks or something, where we can have some little ruling over some tiny domain for an insignificant period of time. And Hiranyakashipu is teaching us, even if you get the top seat, even if you win the Euro lottery multiplied by 1 billion and get extended lifetime on the National Health Service, it still won't crack it. It still won't be any good. And because he let himself go, then he became abominable, which is an interesting word, isn't it? Abominable. Like an abomination. You've heard of that word, abominable? Abominable means really, really like disgusting. When someone's abominable, it's like really yucky. So he'd gone from, and when Lord Brahma saw Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu started off nice. He was praising, and he was very humble and submissive. But then very, very quickly, the nasty side started to come out. The greedy side started to come out. And so this is the lesson to learn, that even if you get everything that you want in the material world, it still won't be any good. So don't even bother. Don't even go there. Don't try and follow in Hiranyakashipu's footsteps. Any questions or comments? Yeah, it's all sweet. Yeah. Raduna, yeah. So, yeah, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, so but it shows how there can be so many nuances in Sanskrit, according to the and sometimes Srila Prabhupada will translate, and there'll be something in the translation that's not in the. Well, actually, what's interesting, if you look at the previous Bhagavad Gitas before Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, there's one by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, his Bhagavad Gita, and in there it refers to in that verse where Arjuna is asking, well, you're saying that they'll be free of sin because they're engaged in service, but where's the proof of that? And then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna's eyes became coppery red, and he became really, really intense. And he says, because they are mine, because they are my devotees, therefore they are free of any sin, even if they do have some fall down. Apichat Sudarachara, because they are mine. So when pure devotees are translating the Sanskrit, they're actually there. They actually can see what's going on, so they can see details, appreciate things, nuances that we wouldn't directly see from just being a Sanskrit scholar. So that's always handy, isn't it? If you're going to read translated Sanskrit, read it translated from a Uttama Adhikari, Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated, then you'll get the full understanding. Anyway, the general idea is he was very drunk, and he was like this all the time. And because he was drunk, then obviously he's not going to show any really fine discrimination, you know. So all his wives and all his friends and everybody, they were all put into a situation where they were being abused and disrespected by him being in that condition all the time. And so then that degrades everything, because even though the wife is trying to be chaste and his friends are trying to be good friends to him, he's not behaving in a way which is worthy of their friendship. And then the whole thing becomes very distorted. An unqualified leader, just by dint of his ability to intimidate, maintains his position, but nobody under him is feeling protected or satisfied. And that's what we have right now. We have a planet full of people who are being governed by people who are not qualified to be the leaders in the first place. That's why democracy doesn't really work, because the highest percentage of people are Shudras, and the voting should go to the most intelligent, which are the Brahmins. So democracy can work in the form of communism, but then there also has to be capitalism for the Vaishyas, and then monarchy for the Kshatriyas, and then anarchy for the Brahmins. They live outside society. Any other questions or comments? Yes, very nice.
I was wondering
Shishikoni Tama Pashashiki Jai.
Just because of our desires, right? Because of our desires, we can only degrade more, right?
Yeah.
We want to enjoy more material more. So it's like, is it no power to change our desire and change the sort of like the development of the yugas, sort of like because everything's kind of going down, right? So if we manage to change that or desires in the society, then is that possible to change that? Or there's no way?
You mean for people in general that are on chanting Hare Krishna?
Yeah, it's even like if you don't, there's a lot of people that do take up Krishna consciousness after some time, they also kind of everyone's
if they don't take up, because Maharaj Pariksha asks Shukadeva Goswami if they perform, what is the point of doing prashchita? Otherwise, what is the point of doing atonement? If the elephant cleans himself very nicely, and then he just goes back, he comes out the water and he's spotlessly clean, there's not one particle of dirt on him. And then he immediately just goes and rolls in the dust, because the dust dries his body. So that's what he does. So he's right back to square one. So prashchita is of no use. That's why the prison system doesn't work, because the people go in there because they've broken the law, and all they do when they're in there is it's like going to the University of Criminals, and by the association they say, how did you get caught? Well, when the alarm went off, it flickered, and I thought it would start working. Oh no, when it flickers, you've got to cross the green wire with the red one, and then nobody will know that you. And so the next time he's out, he's thinking, okay, I'll do that the next time, So the criminal system doesn't work because it doesn't get to the heart. The heart is where the problem is. This tendency to want to cheat and break rules and not show respect for others, and that doesn't get cleansed by just doing some type of atonement, being punished. But cleansing the heart is something which it's a transcendental process. The heart is something which can't be cleansed by any other method than the process of mantra meditation. Through sound vibration, the heart becomes purified in Kali Yuga. That's the method. Prabhupada said that the sound vibration of the Maha Mantra dissolves the false ego. So the root of the problem, false ego is rooted in the mode of ignorance. So it's the false ego that's causing all the problems. The false sense that I am the enjoyer, Bhaktaram Yagatabhesham. Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities. But I'm thinking I am the center and I am the enjoyer. So then that causes all the other problems. So if you remove that false ego, and the person understands his real position and he wants to act in that position, then he becomes purified. And once you get a taste for that devotional service of being that humble, submissive servant, once you get a taste for it, then you don't want to give it up, because anything else other than that is not going to satisfy you. And the challenge is, can you keep getting that taste? Because the taste comes when you're surrendering. When you stop surrendering and you relax and you just become comfortable, then you lose the taste. The taste is only there as long as you're prepared to continue pushing toward Krishna. So, and then eventually when you get to the point of being nishta, it's like pushing a rock up a hill, and you can't stop until it gets to the top of the hill, and that's nishta. That's when 75% of the anarthas are removed. And then you keep pushing the rock, and then it goes down. That's ruchi. That's when the rock starts moving on its own. There's no effort anymore to follow the principles or to chant or to render devotional service, because there's a taste. You're experiencing so much energy. It's like a man running waist deep in water, and then suddenly he comes out of the water, and it's effortless. He's running, and he's going very fast, whereas in the water he was trying like anything. He's hardly getting anywhere. He's running like anything. He's trying so hard. But when you come out, when those unwanted things are removed, then you go very fast, So Prabhupada wanted everyone, all his disciples and all his grand disciples, to come to the stage of being fixed as quickly as possible. That means from Kanishta to Madhyama Adhikari. And that's why we emphasize very much preaching and book distribution, because that forces the Kanishta onto the Madhyama platform. Even if it's only while he's out there passing the books out, and then as soon as it's the end of the day, then he goes back and he's back to being a Kanishta again. And then the next day he's back out and he's a Madhyama. While he's out there doing the books. Or Harinam Sankirtan, or Prashadam distribution, or something anyway. to help spread Krishna consciousness. Yes, Jai Jagannath Prabhu.
You see many people claim to manifest riches and wealth, not with Krishna also saying
The tendency of, you mean like when they produce gold and things like this?
No, they claim that by meditating they can manifest riches, which will come from, or they get a car.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, what's that called?
Manifesting.
Yeah. So if you want something, then you just have to keep wanting it and focus on it. And is that Krishna that's doing that, or are they doing that on their own? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Well, I haven't heard it worked. If it worked, there'd be a lot of people walking around that were really rich. It happened. I remember that guy Jim Carrey. He said that he had a checkbook, and he wrote a check out for $1 million, and he said, "I'll sign this when I have $1 million." And he was focused that he was going to be able to do this. And then in due course of time, he signed that check and cashed it. He had $1 million. So, but the funny thing about these testimonials, you'll hear a testimonial, someone will say, "Oh, I rubbed this on my toe and all my hair came back in my head. It was unbelievable." And so everybody goes off to buy the product. But it worked for that particular person who had that particular karma. So that situation worked for him. But in general, it's not going to work for everybody else. There's so many things you can buy which are supposed to cure this, that, and the next thing. And they maybe did cure, 5 or 10 people. But out of 10,000, that was just a few. And they only collect the testimonials from the ones that say it worked. Everybody else, they're not interested in, So you may get this little... but ultimately, everything is resting upon karma. And you can't get anything. You either pay for it in the past, or if you get it now, then you're going to have to pay for it in the future. Nobody gets anything for free in the material world. So if you try and mess the system up and say, well, I'm just going to steal all this right now and get it now, but because you've stolen it and you didn't really deserve that, then in the future, and it's multiplied by 5, whatever you take, you have to give back 5 times. If you give, you get 5 times back. If you take, 5 times more is taken off you. It's multiplied. That's why Buddhists, they don't beg, because they say that if I get anything from anybody else, I've got to pay it back to you 5 times in the future. So therefore, they don't want to accrue that type of karma. Interesting. But the principle of giving and taking in Krishna consciousness is a loving exchange, the giving of gifts and receiving of gifts, the revealing of one's heart and mind, inquiring confidentially, accepting food and offering food. These are the 6 living exchanges shared by one devotee and another. And Prabhupada says this International Society for Krishna Consciousness was created to facilitate these living exchanges between devotees. So these living relationships are really the goal that we're aspiring for. And if people want to chase after little trinkets and try and pull a fast one on the material energy, it may work for some time, but eventually everything has to be paid for to the particle.
Yeah, the Krishna says, don't forgive and receive.
Yeah. What's that saying that you say in Scotland? The giving hand, or the... Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew it was something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you try to take with your 2 hands, how much can you take? And if God wants to give you with your 2 hands, how much can you receive? And the way Krishna looks after us is much better than us trying to do it ourselves. If we just depend upon Krishna and put our faith in him, then he will look after us. Just like we've got Govardhan Hill coming up now, celebrating the lifting of Govardhan Hill. And you could think, you're there in the rain, it's coming down, and there's this little boy with a massive mountain he's underneath it, lifting it up, and it's kind of shaking around a little bit. And you've got your umbrella from sports, what's it called? Sports savers. So you think, I think I'll take my chances with my £4.99 brolly. Got a guarantee with it anyway. So Krishna's saying, just depend upon me, just come and take shelter of me. And with our material mind, we may be calculating, well, that doesn't look so safe. I think I'll take my chances on my own out here in the material energy and try and provide facility for myself. But it never works. And you can see that if we do a book called Blooping one day, we decide to interview 1,000 devotees that have blooped, and we ask them all, are things better now? I've not met anyone yet that's blooped and then says, oh, it was the best move I ever made. Straight after I won the lottery, then I married Miss Sweden, and life's been hunky-dory ever since. You know, it's never usually like that. They usually look a lot sadder and a lot kind of a lot more depressed and lost.
I'm curious to know, have curses any importance in this area? If someone curses you?
Does what have?
If someone curses you,
Oh, I heard that if someone curses you, I heard one devotee did curse somebody and the plane crashed that they were in, but I don't know. I haven't shastrically qualified that. But if you curse someone and you snap your thread, then you lose all the austerity that you've performed, and then the person will have some reaction, but then you will also suffer the loss of all the austerities that you performed. You know. Well, he will have some, but it will be less than and then it will depend which devotee, how much tapasya he's engaged in, how much sukruti he's acquired, as to how much potency he will have. So somebody may have performed austerities in this life or in a past life, and then they will use up that sukruti by cursing somebody, inflicting something upon them. Or same thing again, you know, or if they do, actually there's one Mataji, we call her Ma, she's Brijbasi in Kusma Sarovar in Vrindavan, not far from Govardhan Hill. And she was sick, and she told the lady that was looking after her Palindri, she says, I need to go somewhere else where none of my relatives can come round the bed and do naza on me. So naza, you know, you see they put a dot on the kid's face and they put black on the kid's face. That naza it's to protect them from naza, from the evil eye. So if you're sick on your deathbed and people come over and they're like, oh, how are you then? And they're really thinking, it can't be long now, eh? Come on, hurry up, you know, we're gonna have a celebration when you die. So she wanted to be away from all their so-called friends and relatives, and then she would just allow a select few to come so they couldn't do the naza on her, you know. So I don't know how you could test that to see how true it was, you know, but probably wouldn't be, because even if somebody says, oh, Prabhu, you're looking really good today, but they actually hate you, and even though they're saying it, there's just something about it that doesn't seem right, you know. They're like, it doesn't really touch the heart. So according to the intention of the person, will have an effect upon you.
She also pointed out, because I've seen some auto rickshaws and some stuff hanging from the back. People had some chili, onions, and some of the old food. And so she said that's because people are envious. So when people will see something from the object, then they put it in the back so that attention to the object. So actually imagine I think it's really even pretty. You're used to seeing people get married with a tire and old boot structure.
Is that to indicate they've married an old boot? It's interesting, isn't it, how envy, so they're aware of the envy. So if they see the person's driving a nice new car, but they see the old boot, then it diverts their attention to the old boot, and then they're envious of them having a car, yeah. So that would imply that if the old boot wasn't there and people were looking envious at you, that there would maybe be you would incur some difficulty. They'd be thinking, I hope he crashes it. Look at the state of that. Why has he got that, you know? Yeah, it's a subtle. See, because in the West we don't have those subtleties because everything's being reduced more and more. Things are just becoming material. Everything's just taken on face value. But that's the wonderful thing about going across to the Holy Dham is you see people getting up in the morning and they just put their bead bags on. They'll bathe and they'll put their bead bags on. Nobody's telling them to do that. It's just what they've done for thousands of years. And then they follow the principles and they have Guru Puja and Mangalarti. They just do that. They're not members of an institution. It's just what they've always done, So it's amazing to see that. And some of the things that we do, Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do, like don't eat with your left hand and pay obeisances with both hands, all these little things that we're being asked to do. Srila Prabhupada was very conscious when he first brought the devotees over, because he knew that the Brijbasis would be looking at the way we conduct ourselves, and that would be like an indication of how well we understood the philosophy, So it's very important.
Just another thing on that subject is that the more somebody curses someone, the more they lose that shakti, that potency to do it.
Yeah.
It just becomes anything worse and worse.
Yeah.
And another thing is, there's evidence in the Shastra that, for example, Maharaj Amrish, when he was cursed by the Vasini, then the curse came back on him because he cursed the devotee.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't stand in the way. He just allowed the full reaction. He didn't. So if somebody does something to you and you don't retaliate, then they get the full reaction for whatever it is, If somebody's lobbying against you and you start lobbying against them, but if you they say that mud can't stick on marble, pure marble. That's how you test pure marble. You get the mud and you throw it, and if the mud slides down, then you know it's pure marble. The marble doesn't say, "Oh, you throwing the mud at stuff." It just stands there, gets hit by the mud slides down, and everyone realizes, oh, it's a pure piece of marble. So you'll never find a piece of marble throwing a bit of mud back.
Saying somebody's made up a standard, that's not worth a finger's curse.
It's not worth a finger's curse. Oh, tinkers. Our thinkers. Oh, tinkers. Not worth a tinker's curse. Oh, yeah.
Used to be the Heather, and tells you on the street, and if you didn't ride it, the curse you, but it's curse.
Oh, that's right, yeah. That's why you get a dirty lock. If you don't give them a donation, that's what they're doing to you. Jai, Iskon Guru Vrinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi, Haribol. All of you, ki jai.